All right, we'll start with roll call, and hopefully Sandra and Kathy can jump in here. I'm just going to go down in alphabetical order. If everybody just wants to say that you're here. Tom Bukovitz.
Here.
John Decker.
Present.
Sean Green.
Here.
Michelle King did email me on Monday to let me know that she could not make the meeting today, so she's an excused absence. Lorraine. Michael Keister.
Here.
Tom Lavelle.
Here.
John Morin.
Here.
And Jim Stevens.
Here.
All right, perfect. So we'll get started, and hopefully Sandra and Kathy can join us. So Kelly Gordon, who was our school budget representative on the budget committee, she had to suddenly leave the school board, unfortunately, due to work commitments. She's also a teacher, I believe, in Dover. So things have gotten very, very hectic for her. So unfortunately, she did have to leave. But Kathy Brosnan, who did come to a few meetings last year, she'll be joining us this year for the budget season as the school board representative. So why don't we get right into the calendar? I'm going to pull it up here. And I thought what I'd do is, I know I had a couple of people that had a few questions after our last meeting about, I guess, the whole process for the budget committee, especially for newer folks, just so you understand, I guess, a little bit more about our role. And with SB2, it has changed a little bit, especially with our schedule. But, our role is to kind of review with the two governing bodies, which would be the school district and the town, their expenditures. We can't really control what they spend, but we can control their budget or what they're allowed to spend. And that's why throughout the past few meetings, we've had the town and the school board present to us the current state of affairs for their finances, so you can get an idea as far as where money is going. And then the crux of our role really is going forward is helping them plan the budget for 2020 and 2021 and 22 for the school board, 2021 for the town. It is our budget, as we mentioned in the meeting past, so we do actually present the budget to the town, but we work with the school and the town to review those expenses and help create a budget that's appropriate based upon the expenses that we have reviewed in the past. So how that works is we will meet with the school and the town a few times to review what their proposed budget is, and typically we'll go back and ask them to sharpen their pencils and bring it down from the first proposed budget. But this year our calendar is quite condensed, so we don't have as many of those pencil sharpening meetings that we've had in the past. So I have a feeling they'll come to us with something that's much more refined than what we've seen in the past. And then from there, our role when it comes into January is we will meet typically after some of these meetings you'll see in the month of December. After the draft budgets have been presented, we meet as a committee to review those expenses, and we can discuss and see if we want anything adjusted at that point. Motions can be made by individual budget committee members to reduce expenses, and we can vote from there. In the month of January, and this is really what's driving our schedule, is the public hearing and the deliberative session. So the difference between those meetings is the public hearing, we have about 1 week to, a 1 week span to present both. But the public hearing that we'll have for the school budget and for the town, it's an opportunity for town members to come and ask questions or just present their opinion on the school budget. They don't vote on anything. We just basically listen and potentially answer questions. We don't have to answer questions, but I know in years past we always have. And they can ask any questions that they feel that might impact the expenses for the town and the school. Again, those are two separate hearings. After the hearings, we then take those finalized budgets and present it to the town, and then we have the deliberative sessions. So the deliberative sessions that are set in January, potentially early February, there's one for the town and one for the school. That's typically what you would consider in the past as town meeting, where everybody gets together and they can question the warrant articles as well as the actual budget, and things can be amended from there. once things are amended and voted on and finalized at the deliberative session, the budget and the warrant articles are then sent to the ballot to be voted on in March. So we've got a lot of work in a very short period of time, but I think that's the crux of things. John and Michael, John Deckard and Michael, do you have anything that you'd like to add? Did I cover all of that in a short period of time?
I think you did a fine job.
Yep, yeah, you did good. I mean, although the one thing I would disagree with is you said that we could reduce the budget, but we could also actually add to the budget as well if we think that something is under budgeted. So just to be clear, it can go both ways.
Yes, I'm sorry. Yes, we can definitely increase the budget. I haven't seen many times that has happened, but
right. And not that I'm in favor of it. I was just saying that it is our authority to, and realistically, we want to propose a responsible budget. That's the real thing. What's responsible?
Yeah. One other thing I'll mention is the default budget. You'll see basically the first budgets that will be presented to us will be the default budgets. The default budget is based upon the prior year's budget. And that budget is used if the proposed budgets that go to ballot do not get approved by the town. If they don't get voted in, then it goes to the default budget. The default budget that will be proposed will be essentially last year's budget with any increases for debt service or contractual agreements. There's a couple of different items that actually can increase from the default budget. But those will be presented to us first, I believe. Those will be presented first.
Tim, I looked at that and I kind of had to wonder what that was, how that got to be first. Typically what they have done in the past when we didn't have much authority on the default budget, and it wasn't as consequential because typically the operating budget would drive everything. But typically both the town and the school have presented their main budget first, and then they have developed the default budget from those numbers as well as the prior year. So I'm just questioning, is that really first thing we want them to come up with? Maybe
so when I was working with Mr. Sterndale on this, Michael, he had actually, I think maybe his thought was they needed more time to come up with the 2021 budget. Okay. And maybe he felt it would be easier to be able to present a default budget in early December versus an actual proposed budget for next year. But I'm sorry.
Go. No, I thought you were finished. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm done.
All right. I actually like it a lot. I think it makes a lot of sense because honestly, you want to look at that and say, okay, where are we at? And what does that mean for next year if we just went forward with what we have? I think it's the responsible thing. And did the school also agree to that, or?
So while I'm waiting for Kathy hasn't joined. Sandra's just, let me see, I'll get Sandra in here. Kathy hasn't joined yet, so I'm not sure what the school board is able to do with this. I did send it to the new superintendent as well as the school board, and that's when they let me know that Kathy would be joining to represent the school board this evening. So
not at yesterday's meeting.
Sorry, it's also nice to have the default budget up front so that when you see the new budget, you have something to compare to. So whether it's going down or going up, what the numbers are changing and where they're changing.
Yeah.
Like you said before, the default budget, basically it's last year's budget.
Yeah. And then to your point, John, I think it helps us understand too, some of those contractual agreements or any debts or anything that actually do have to increase because of that. I think it's nice to know.
Yep. Yeah, I like it.
It's more going to benefit the school than I think the town, but that's another thing to talk about later.
Yeah.
Yeah, in the October school board meeting, they addressed some or brought up some concern about the order of those. So it'll be interesting to see what they come back with to us.
Was that last night, Jim?
No, not last night. The previous. I
no.
was at listened to the previous meeting, and they were sounded somewhat concerned about that order and it being, I guess, different from historically what's occurred. So, it'll be interesting to see what they say.
Okay.
Right. It should be really simple to do, though. That's the whole point. So yeah, I know historically they've basically dilly-dallied on that point, because the superintendent's office did it, and it was like the last piece of information they provided. But yeah, I agree. It makes sense to be first.
So you'll notice that on this schedule, that is a Tuesday meeting. Based upon everything being compressed into the month of December. Normally we'd have pretty much the month of December and January to do a lot of this. I'm proposing that we have a Tuesday meeting. And I just want to make sure that that would work with folks, because I know that's 2 meetings in a week in a busy month. But I'm not sure how else we'd be able to do it. I'm trying to avoid select board meetings and trying to avoid school board meetings, which would be in the same week. So that is something of note. And I did highlight the Tuesday date.
That would work for me. The
What was
Tuesday
that?
meeting will work for me.
Okay.
I have no conflict.
And then you can, so I'm sorry, go ahead, John.
Sorry, I had to click unmute. Sorry. The only thing I think I have potential conflict with is that December 10th meeting, which is what we're looking. I believe that's the state Department of Ed meeting that we're supposed to submit the SAU planning document at. I don't know what time or anything on that, so there could be a little bit of potential problem with me there.
Okay.
I have no objection.
And so you'll see we added a meeting, and I got to give Mr. Sterndale a lot of credit because he put a lot of this together. He put all of this together essentially. And I just kind of looked at this calendars to make sure it worked for our other committees. There's during the week of Christmas break, Tuesday, December 29th, that's if necessary. So I know, again, in years past, and I don't want to base upon everything we've done in the past, but we've had a little bit more time as a committee to review the school and the town budgets just as a committee. And I'm just not sure if we'll have the time during those 2 presentations from the school and the town to kind of debrief with each other on it. So that's why that's kind of in there. And then in January, the town department heads would present to us at our first 2021 meeting. And then we go straight to the hearings where we have the final budgets for the school in the town in a public hearing for Tuesday, January 12th and Thursday, January 14th. Which gives us plenty of leeway, for that deadline. And then the town deliberative session would be on Saturday, January 30th. I think we said around 9 a.m. And then proposing Tuesday, February 2nd for the school deliberative session, which I know is I think that's the deadline, the final date, or no, the 6th can be, but they're not available. The school is not well, Martin Luther King Day is a national holiday and they're all off. The administrative staff is off on that day. So they'd prefer if we could not do Martin Luther King Day for our meetings.
That should be fine.
All works for me.
Okay.
I'm fine.
So I think what I would move forward, I'd make a motion to approve this calendar. I think what I would like to do though is just make sure, as far as the topics, is confer with the school board to make sure that they're able to present us with their default budget in 4 weeks, 3.5 weeks. I don't think it should be a problem based upon what we've just discussed, but I just want to make sure that they can do that.
That makes sense. So would you like me to make a motion?
Yes, please.
All right, I make a motion that we accept the proposed budget. I'm sorry, the proposed meeting schedule, budget committee meeting schedule for the 2021 season.
I second it.
Any discussion?
Sure seems compressed.
All right. All in favor?
Unfortunately, yes.
Okay, all in favor. And again, I'll do a roll call. Tom Bukovitz,
Aye.
John Decker,
Aye.
myself is a yes. Sean Green,
Yes.
Michael Keister,
I,
Tom Lavelle,
Yes.
John Moran,
Yes.
and Jim Stevens.
Yes.
Perfect. Well, that
And
was a lot.
I'm here too,
Oh, I'm sorry, Sandra. Yes.
and I'm a yes.
Okay, thank you. So the motion carries. That went a lot quicker than I thought it would. John Moran, it's on to you.
All right, cool. Obviously, we just had the town election, town elections, the national elections on Tuesday, which everything went really well. It was a late night. We got out of there about 11 o'clock, but, I felt confident that everybody did a good job and, being there all day. And I was really happy with how everything turned out, with just all the residents coming in and how everybody dealt with everything. So a good thank you out for the committee that, people that really worked that and took care of that. We also got our new tax rate, which is going to be you'll see it on your December bill. Last year's tax rate was $22.50, and this year's tax rate is going to be $18.76. The reason for the lesser amount of the rate is because the values of the home in Nottingham went from a total of $625 million to $796 million. So by doing that, it obviously drops our tax rate down. So pretty much most people should be around the same as where they were last year. Whereas on the budget committee, if we can keep the school budget in this budget, hopefully we can keep the number low for the next upcoming years and not see a spike, which will really start to affect people's, bottom line and what they're paying for their taxes. Last meeting we actually talked about too is obviously we all know that Chief Gunner Boss is going to retire. So we had a brief conversation about trying to set up some things for what we might do for his retirement, like a gift and, maybe dedicating something to the town, which when we get that officiated, we'll let everybody know. The highway department came in, something that'll be interesting for the budget in CIP. They were looking for getting a brand new, I believe, 10-wheeler truck with plow, sander, the whole works. They were also looking for a new payloader, and they're also looking for a new grader. Those numbers roughly, if we purchased everything at once, would be $750,000. So obviously a couple jaws dropped at that, those numbers, and we are discussing ways of, because there's not enough in the highway department, reserve funds and stuff like that to support a bill like that. And not knowing what's going to happen with the school, we're in discussions of, what we can do now and what we can hold off on for as long as we can before going into. So a couple different plans we had going for like even the grader, about pushing that off, about hiring a company to do a lot of the grading in town instead of buying the new expensive grader. But those are things that we were talking about with the highway department. And again, our main focus is trying to keep everything at a low expense and not go overboard on blowing everything. Another big thing is that we're talking about is we've got a couple different quotes and stuff for listings. Who's going to be our realtor or broker for Old USA Springs Route 4 property. So we'll be discussing that we might have a meeting on Monday to quickly discuss just who we're going to hire. Not a real formal meeting, but so we can get that selling process in motion. While hopefully, you know, if the economy's good, things are selling. Discuss what we want to do for a price and get that ball rolling so we can get that off and start actually collecting some money from it instead of having a big piece of land that's doing nothing for the town. So we're in progress of getting that taken care of. We'll be having a meeting to set up some appointments for interviews with who's going to be the new police chief. So we'll be going through that. And hopefully, if everything goes right, we will have that all taken care of by the beginning of December, who we are hiring, so that when Chief Boss does retire January 1st, there will be a nice smooth transition between the new chief and his retirement. So those are pretty much the main, you know, things that are going on right now that are of most important for people in town, besides the little, you know, other stuff that we just take care of. So that's pretty much my report for you guys. If anybody has a question, just let me know.
I have one question.
Yeah.
Would you anticipate the replacement for the chief to be more expensive or in line with his salary?
Well, we put it out there on when we were advertising for it and using the company MIR that was doing our recruiting for us of the salary of where basically the chief was now. Which, if you take what we're paying Chief Boss right now, comparative to most other towns, we're pretty much on the low side. So we're hoping to get as many qualified candidates at that number as we can. And we will take it from there to see if that's going to be feasible or if it needs to go up. But I'd say we're confident that we'll be able to find somebody around that same number, so that, again, we'll have a good quality candidate. We'll have a good chief coming in, you know, and keep the price of what it's going to cost to have that chief, you know, at a reasonable rate. So, but yeah, we didn't jump up the price for what we're paying Chief Boss right now. We kept it at basically what he's making. And we felt that was a good way to start.
Well, sometimes if you're at the low end of salaries for a chief, you know, the type of candidate you're going to get may not be as quality as you might want to have to be competitive, you know.
And again, I guess we'll be having that's why we're hoping to get that taken care of this month, so that in case we do have to add our search or put that out there, you know, we can go there. But I know we're talking to the recruiting company that they do have, you know, a good 4 or 5 candidates for us to strongly consider. So we're not at the point of, you know, we're only got 1 or 2. So we
Okay.
should have a decent sized pool to, you know, look at.
John, on that topic, what's the next chance for public input on the hiring decision?
Next selectmen's meeting, we could ask about it. I mean, we were looking to we talked possibly about having, you know, some people from town to actually come sit in on the meeting. We don't want to make it a full open meeting to everybody in the town, because that won't be fair. You know, I mean, to ask somebody to come in to deal with all that, you know, but we were actually looking for certain people, you know, we were inquiring about having certain people in town, you know, like the principal of the school, for instance, having come in, because, you know, the police and the school have a direct impact with each other, you know, with the DARE programs and stuff like that. So, you know, the safety of the children and the safety of the school is a big concern. So we'd like to see what their comments about what they think, because, you know, I don't know what the school's looking for and what police officers do with the school. So.
Yeah, I more meant just members of the public. There was a lot of people. I had some really good discussions with people on election day, standing outside the polls about it. And there's a lot of people I think that would like to share their thoughts and stuff.
I mean, if they want to submit their thoughts to the select board on the email or whatever like that, I mean, we'll read them aloud and we'll discuss what those thoughts are.
Okay.
Be open to the public at our meeting. I mean, we're not trying to hide anything or do anything behind anybody in town. So if people have questions or concerns.
Yeah, I'm not saying you're hiding, just wondering what the best time to do it was.
Yeah, I mean, send it to us so that when we're in the open format of a select board meeting, that we can put it on the agenda of just open discussion.
Okay, great,
And then
thanks.
we'll bring it up as open discussion. You know, people can watch us on Zoom or on TV or even, they're not closed meetings. We are open to the public for our meetings at this present time. So they just got to wear a mask.
John, if there's any more questions on that topic, I'll yield, but if not, I've got another question on another topic.
Okay.
You mentioned at the start of your discussion that the tax rate was set at 18.76, I think I wrote down. Is that correct?
Yep.
And does that include the school budget as well? That's the total tax rate for.
Yeah, because the school budget's already set from last year. We're still on their budget. So
Okay, so that's the total then.
that's the total.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Another question on another topic
Mhm.
regarding the real estate. If you, well, one question is I'm surprised that they're thinking that this is a great time to put commercial property on the market.
Well,
But okay.
there's no bad time. So if you don't put it out there, it's not going to sell. So might as well stick it out and see what happens.
As long as it isn't such a depressed market that you're selling low. There's a parcel at the end of the intersection of Kennard and Freeman Hall Road.
Okay. Yes, I know where that one is.
Yeah, it had a house on there that was.
Yeah, that they tore down, and there was
Years ago.
I think there was something with the deed. There was an issue with it, but yeah, that is still for sale for somebody that wants to make a purchase for the town.
Yeah, last I heard, the problem that wasn't seeing any action was that nobody had presented or undertaken the idea of doing a wetland survey so that they could show a prospective buyer what is the buildable part of that property.
We were actually not looking to invest any money in that, and basically selling it at a here you go. This is what it is. Do your own diligence and do your own, test pits or whatever if you want to buy it. We're not inhibiting anybody to do, anything on it, but the town does not want to dump money into telling, getting the plan, having the test pits done and dropping the money on the survey and all that stuff on the property. Our goal is just to unload it, because those properties, we're not looking to make a financial gain. We're looking to get them off our books.
Okay.
Are there any other ones? Because I saw there's some town-owned lots like around there's like one or two around one of the North River Lake, and there's one on Smoke Street.
There is, but they're not buildable lots. I mean, so you'd really have to be. I mean, I guess if you wanted to buy the lot and put a camper on there and camp on your little 0.05 acres and have a campfire on Saturday night, it's not worth your money to spend and pay where you don't have water rights to the lake. You don't have.
Yeah, we
we're really hoping
offer to sell them to an abutter maybe.
We thought that, but the abutter wants to give you $1 just because they know you're between a rock and a hard place, right?
Yeah.
So you're kind of, how does it look if we give it away to somebody for nothing? That doesn't do any good. So it's because
Well, you can tax them on it.
Well, yeah, that would be the end result. Yeah, but so, I mean, again, all properties, we are always open to be taking somebody's bid, or if somebody wants to question about buying it. I mean, again, no offer will be, we'll listen to anything anybody has to say that's reasonable. Because again, properties that just sit there for the town do nothing for us. We'd rather get them off our books and get them on somebody else's, where again, like you said, Tom, then at least we can tax them on it and makes, have at least some more extra revenue coming in. So.
Yeah, and when you sell the Route 4 property, do you get to keep? Does the town keep all the proceeds, or does some amount? Is that just cover back taxes and stuff, and then the rest goes back to the original owners?
No. That's all forfeit. It's going to be the money that's going to be coming into the town.
Okay.
So obviously we got to pay our real estate fees. You got to do all that. There's all the stuff that goes along with the sale of the property, but that will be coming to the town. That's why I was positioning it when we ever get to sell it, that instead of taking a large fund, we'll put it in I don't know if it's not the general fund, but the fund balance. We'll stick it in there and then put a article up towards the town of saying, hey, guess what? Like the back of the school, that needs to be demolished. We'll have all this extra money to say, hey, at least, and do something with it. You know, that's going to be effective. That's going to show the town can grow or do something better for it. You know, and again, something that since it's there, because if we have an extra large fund balance, you know, what they've done in years past, which I didn't agree with, is they'd actually buy down the tax rates. But then it just basically doubled the next year. So it's a short-term relief where I'd rather take the money instead of bumping down a tax rate, investing it in the town so that there's a benefit for the people.
Oh, I'd rather see it just go against the taxes, but
So yeah, there's room for discussion against that.
Yeah.
But
so if none of the money goes back to the original owners and it all just goes to the town, what's all the reluctance to do anything with the property, like put easements on it or anything like that, that would lower the value?
well, I mean, the only easement that we were thinking of actually putting on there because we want to still make it marketable.
Yeah.
I mean, start putting too much restrictions on there, then we're dropping the value. Then we're not getting, you know, I mean, we're playing that game of, you know, how much can we get with limiting towards what's put on there. So again, the only restriction that we were actually, I think we're all in agreement was a, you know, taking the water out.
Yeah.
And leaving, you know, because if the town didn't a couple years ago switch that over to full commercial, where now you can no longer build residential off Route 4 in that area, we'd probably get a lot more money for it, you know, because that would be a development. But since it's now is commercial, we, by passing that, have limited our buyers. So that obviously affects also the price of what we're going to get for it, because one thing people don't realize too when they see the commercial property, and not to get too much winded on this, is that the town of Nottingham offers no service. There's no gas, there's no public sewer, there's no public water, there's nothing. You know, so you really, you know, our goal would be to have some manufacturing company or some warehouse company that decide, you know, that's not looking for that. You know, because we're not in the ideal place to holding strip malls or doing anything like that. So again, that's what's making our window of potential buyers smaller, where, you know, we're hoping the real estate that we hire group, you know, will be able to reach outside New England, maybe to have some other company that's looking to expand in the area, you know, with the metal structure already there, thinking that'd be good for their warehouse distributing or something, you know. But again, we'll see when we actually finalize and put it up for sale and have discussions with what we're going to list it for. Because the private evaluation that we got on its assessment, where we say we want it, assessed it at 1.4 million. But, you know, we've had it up for sale in the years past and seeing that. And there was, even at $1 million, there seemed to be no market for it. So again, that's where we have to discuss, like, what are we going to actually list it for and where we go with it. And, you know, like selling anything, start somewhere and just, if it goes good quick or it doesn't, you know, you'll figure that out. But I mean, we're going to do our best, you know, get rid of it and make a good profit for the town. I mean, that's obviously our goal. So
Just keep in mind, whatever price you determine, commercial properties take a long time to sell, usually
Right.
usually years. And
and
if
that's
the
where we're
price,
going to get the experience of the, you know, and we're going to interview we've got two real estate companies that we're going to sit with and talk with, and to get their perspectives and their ideas of how they're going to market and sell it and what they're looking, think that they can possibly get for it, you know, before we decide who we're going to go with, so that we can, you know, do the best so we can get rid of it and not, you know, sit on it for sale for 6 years.
right,
I had a question about all the equipment for the highway department.
Yeah,
How was that laid out in the CIP?
it's not. It was just came in front of us of stuff that they need.
Okay,
We
so,
haven't put it in the CIP, or there was in past. I haven't seen the recent CIP, but I know in the past there was talk about a grader and stuff like that on that old CIP from a while ago. But that was just stuff that he was mentioning that he needed.
yeah, because normally we would kind of put that in the CIP and plan for it. And
Again, that's
But-
100% correct. But
if it fell out for some reason,
right, he was mentioning to what we need. So again, I don't know what the conditions of the actual are, what the limitations of the vehicles that we have. If we find another guy that can grade the roads, we can basically take the grader off there because we can keep this one because it'll be only limited use that we need it for. So instead of the 500, 600 hours it gets a year, it might only get 100, which now we don't have to replace it, you know, at that huge extent. You know, the payloader, you know, do we consider a slightly used one? Are we going, we have to go brand new? We didn't get into any of those discussions. It was more of just the want list, and we just took it under advisement, and, you know.
Right. And well, that's why I was asking about the CIP, John, because you kind of try and put your want list and put your priorities. And so
You know, that's why we do that. Put the money into the highway department every year in the fund, so that we could build up to it. But it's just something that it's that much money is not there. So, in my opinion, my personal opinion, that you know, I'm not going to support anything of that nature of amount of money being spent.
Yeah.
You know, we'll get an evaluation of everything to make sure it's done right. But it was, again, more of a want list. So just to throw it out there, whoever's sitting on the CIP committee, there will be some discussions with that going forward. Good thing is the fire department doesn't need anything.
yeah.
Does the highway department maintain their own equipment currently, or is that contracted out?
You mean for like the oil change, tire changes and stuff, general stuff like that?
Yeah, I mean that.
That's all contracted out. We don't have a
Okay.
full-time mechanic that's doing any work really on any of our vehicles.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for John?
Oh yeah, I have one pertaining to at the town hall there. I was just curious, who typically maintains those grounds? What department does that fall under?
Well, there's the inner part of the buildings and then there's the outer part of the buildings.
Outer specifically is my question.
Outer specifically, I believe we were using, Chad Fernall was doing some of the, you know, the mowings of the lawns, but then come to the youth fields over there, that was actually done by the Youth Baseball Association. Those guys are doing a lot of their own maintenance over there. We were using for the more decorative part of it when we had our Nottingham gardening department was doing a lot of the bark mulch spreading and the little stuff like that. And for the internal stuff, we were actually looking to try to find somebody like a part-time retired guy that did stuff to come in to do some internal general maintenance so that we don't have to go out and hire out for it. And then we can also use that guy to do other stuff, you know, part-time at the dump or somewhere. And we're trying to find somebody that wants to work 20 hours a week that's semi-retired and just that's a handyman. But, you know,
There's some items there. Yeah, I was curious because there's some items there that seem like they're, you know, small maintenance items, but as they fall through the cracks, you know, plants overgrowing, HVAC equipment turns into needing new HVAC equipment and things like that. You know, walkways in disrepair turns into a lawsuit. And just with those things, you know, little dollars spent now might offset some big dollars and big problems down the road. So,
and that was something why we were actually looking to try to find that that person that would like to work for the town, you know, for like just 20 hours a week. We could have them helping out doing the stuff around there. There's a lot of projects that need to get done that we don't have to go out and, you know, do bids for and stuff like this. We'd rather have somebody internal because there's other projects in town that can be done, you know, in the old buildings that we have over at the highway department. There's plenty of odd stuff that we could find somebody that just wanted to be part-time, you know, but it's just finding that person. We weren't able to get somebody yet. So, but it is on our agenda. Again, we don't want to see those things fall through the cracks. So
is there a particular timeline or plan or anything to? I know it's probably down the list of ways, but you know, how do we get traction on something like that?
We've actually, I believe, had an
Maybe
ad
this
out
isn't the
for that
appropriate
position
one.
already. So we were actively already seeking somebody for it. So, you know, that's I mean, we're pursuing to get that done as soon as possible because we'd also like somebody, you know, if we get somebody soon, that would come and just do the general shoveling and sanding it over the winter instead of having, Chris out there, or the girls out there, or the rec department out, somebody that can keep that clear. They'll come in earlier in the morning to clear it, and I mean, that's would be part of what we're looking for in that handyman / maintenance worker, or whatever however you want to classify it, person.
Sure.
So I mean, we are actively pursuing that now. That's something it's not a future thing. It's actually, we're looking now, but it's just most handymans it's like this, they're so busy. It's like, finding people to work right now is,
Yeah.
it's not as simple as we thought. I'd love to say if I was 50 years old to be the handyman, but I'm not at that stage, so I can't volunteer myself.
No. Yeah, I hear. Okay, thanks for the info.
But if you know somebody, please let us know. Spread the word, ask people. Again, it's something that we're very interested in. So if anybody knows anybody that's semi-retired and that wants to do some stuff that's handy, that has a mechanical background, that doesn't mind painting or doing stuff, hey, please let us know.
All right, thanks a lot.
All right. Any other questions for John? Well, thanks, John. And I know I was there first thing in the morning on Tuesday, and everybody there did a fantastic job at the school for voting day, and everything went really smooth. I was shocked how long the line was at 7 o'clock in the morning when I was like, oh, I'll be the first one there. Yeah, not quite, but
it was dead after 4 o'clock. I mean, Tom was there. I mean, it was just a steady little flow, but I thought we'd see a huge rush at the end of the evening, and there wasn't. So
yeah, I think everybody had the same idea I did. Hey, let's go first thing at 7 o'clock.
yeah, exactly.
All right. Well, Kathy still hasn't joined, so unfortunately, we're not going to get a school update unless she joins towards the end. We'll move on to the committee reports. So we'll start with Michael with the School Facilities Committee. I know you guys had a meeting this afternoon. You're on mute, Michael.
Okay, how's that? Is that better?
Much better.
Okay. Yeah, we did have a meeting this afternoon. We also had one, we've been meeting pretty regularly, actually. We've been kind of on every Thursday afternoon schedule for a bit. Last week, we did not meet on Thursday, but there was some action on Tuesday, both in the morning and in the evening for the school facilities. And that comprised a walkthrough with, on Tuesday morning of a week and a half ago, the director of the state capital funding for school facilities did a walkthrough with the building superintendent and a few others, and got a good firsthand look at what the deficiencies in the current situation are and what it is we're asking to do with money from the state. Apparently there's a lot of competition for those dollars because of pent-up demand that the funds have not been available for almost a decade. And so there's a number of schools that have similar needs and similar projects in mind that we're competing against for just a few opportunities to tap into some of that during the next biennium. But we do have a pretty good case, and we apparently shared that case with the woman who's directing that project to accept the applications and make decisions on which ones are worthy and which ones are not. So that happened Tuesday morning. Tuesday late afternoon, starting about 5 o'clock, I guess, there was a interview session for 3 firms that were in the running for construction manager, and that I don't know what, well, Sandra, I think had similar experience as I did on trying to find the meeting that was supposedly posted and scheduled to be on a Zoom call, as well as being advised and on an internal Zoom call for the membership of the facilities committee. Best we could do was between us find a Zoom session on wherever, I guess just on Zoom, that was very poor in terms of audio quality. And I really think that the town needs to invest in microphones for the publicly televised meetings that nobody can hear. It was just completely unintelligible. And in the course of the second interviewee, about 17 minutes into the whole session, it all froze up, and to my knowledge, may or may not have resumed. I hung in there for 5 minutes wondering why I was hanging in there for a conversation I couldn't make any sense of anyway. So I gave up. I think Sandra did as well.
I did. My concern, I also have a really strong concern that even if when you finally got to it, the audio and everything were perfect. If we were committee members and we had between us juggling to figure out how to get to wherever it was that we were going to be able to connect. It was not posted on either the town or the school website, which would be one of the first places as just a town person I would be looking to find something. We thought of several other places that we could look and things, and I'm not even sure how we finally came upon doing that. I guess we called somebody, or you did, Michael, but it was not accessible to the community at all. And I'm afraid if these kind of things continue, they're going to come back in a negative way when people go to vote on things. They're just not going to know what they're voting on. That's my thought.
Yep. And we did the week prior make very clear pleas to have it cablecast on both of the town and school channels, and neither of that happened. So I think the school really dropped the ball on communication efforts there, which was too bad. But anyway, the school board did vote last week, I believe, on a particular candidate, and went on to hire that firm. It went to Ekman and Company, or Ekman, what's it called? Ekman Construction. Yeah, Ekman Construction. Ekman Construction, and a gentleman named Preston. Preston Hunter. Can't read my writing. He was in the facilities meeting with us today at 3:30. Very, very engaged and ready to find out everything he needs to know about being a part of the team and a part of the project. The reason that we brought on a construction manager at this point in time is that they need a very fine estimate of the total project cost by the end of this year, by December, or by some point before January. The state needs a very finely tuned estimate of the project cost for our state application. And the only way to get that is to bring on a construction manager and have him go through the details that the architect could present. The architect could present pretty high level estimate and did. That's where we settled in on I think 5.3 million last I knew. But the construction manager looks at a lot more detail and will be able to get that fine tuned to the standard that the state is looking for.
Has that amount changed much in the course of time?
It has. I think
Has
we
it-
were looking at 4.5 back a year ago. And as we developed the plan and decided a little bit more about what the school really needs, and some cost inflation things that went on between then and now, it grew a little bit. And that's not atypical. That's not unusual for a project once it gets beyond the initial, here's what we think we want kind of design, to here's what we really need and should ask the voters for. So that's
I know.
with that.
I know that material costs and construction have gone up dramatically since the COVID thing started. You talk to any contractors and they'll tell you everything is much more money now than it was. So,
Yeah, and it may be by next July. That's still the target date for construction beginning.
Michael,
Uh,
are,
Yes.
are all the committee meetings, are they open to the public, or was it just that one to interview the construction?
I believe all the meetings are open to the public on a Zoom call, a Zoom observation only call. I know they record the meetings on the Zoom.
So there's no opportunity for public comment. It's just basically you can listen to the meeting.
I check with Christine on that. I really don't. You might have better information available to you. I don't know that.
Okay.
And Michael, forgive me, you said the cost had gone up a little bit. I guess, is that like
That's
2 million a little bit or 1 million a little bit?
Well, I think when we first started looking into initial plans that the architect was presenting, we were talking about 4.5 million. And then by the time the drawings that were developed for a presentation back in March to the public, or back in, it might have been very early March, late February, early March, when we presented the forum to the public. I think it was looking around 5.2 million at that point, and I think it's more viewed to be 5.3 million from the latest I've heard. Now, what we get from the details that the construction manager is looking at, I don't know where that's going to go, and I suspect that you're right that the labor and materials cost will be considerably more. Don't know what to do about that.
Maybe it's best to just wait a year until the pandemic stuff dries down and stuff goes back to normal. And also, I was told by some realtor friends that they're expecting a lot of foreclosures and stuff, so the market might be going down, and that'll take out a lot of new home construction, so you might find it easier to get builders.
Yeah, maybe. One thing that we do have to keep in the back of our head, though, is about 30% of this project cost could be available from the state grant. If we wait at all, that won't be available for another 2 year, and into the next 2 year cycle, it won't be available to us.
So you want to put this on the ballot for this March, right?
That's correct.
I'd like to see how that's going to read out. How you gonna put that article in? It's like, you put it as that we are requesting $5.3 million. You're going to put it in as 30% off of 5.3 with. I'd just like to see how that reads out, how the article gets written out for the voters to read, so that they're not misled by any way.
Well, it'll be a bond hearing, and
Right.
and what I suspect.
This,
What I suspect is going to be disclosed in terms of the public warrant will be that there is going to be a final total sum of the project cost to be funded in part by funds from the state,
Possible funding.
which will be known or not by that time. We will know if we've been awarded the project. by-
Michael, I had heard some talk about potentially with leaving the SAU that we would have to be responsible for preschooling for about 13 special needs kids. And there was some talk about, instead of doing 4 new classrooms in this edition, there was some talk about adding a 5th one for that preschool type thing. Is that going to be reflected in these plans or this new thing for on the ballot?
The design that they're looking at right now has, in addition to some refiguring of some of the existing structure, they're looking at an addition of a 4 classroom wing back behind the library. There'll be a courtyard immediately adjacent to or between the new construction there and the library itself. But that 4 classroom place is expected to initially be 3 kindergarten classrooms plus a preschool classroom if we don't need 4 kindergarten classrooms at that time. So that's kind of what the initial look is.
I guess
but-
my question would be, is there a timeline for when the decision to leave the SAU would happen and when that would take effect? And does that have any effect on the plans?
Isn't John Decker part of
I'll
that?
I'll get into that.
Okay.
Okay, so did you want to take that now, John, or do you want to take it later?
I mean, I'll wait for you to be done, Michael,
Okay,
and then we could just move to my report.
I'm almost done. Next steps, we're looking at trying to put together some kind of a presentation mechanism for the public to keep the public in the loop on what the plans are, what the needs are, where it is at any given point. And they're talking about putting together a video that's accessible from the school board website or the school website, and finding ways to advertise how to get more information so that the public has a better understanding of the project and a way to provide input to us.
Michael, at the
Excuse me,
not yesterday's school board meeting, but last month, they brought up bringing in some sort of consultant regarding the preschool. I guess is that tied in with that, I guess, flexible use that you were just speaking about, or do those kind of timelines line up? Are you aware of them?
I'm going to defer to John Decker on all of that. The discussion of preschool, because that's all having to do with the divorce from the SAU, if that happens or not, and things like that. I will say that currently we are spending an awful lot of money to have the preschool at Northwood. It's there and costing more than it should by being there. And if we could bring it in-house, we would recoup a lot of wasted expenditure. Anything further on the facilities? We are planning to have a next meeting at 3:30, 2 weeks from now. There may be a work session next week having to do with that video that they're talking about putting together. But in terms of a posted public meeting, the next one will be 2 weeks from today at 3:30 in the afternoon.
Thank you, Michael. Does anybody have any other questions for Michael?
Tim, it's Kathy Brosnan. I just got here. I didn't see your second notice.
Okay. Hey, Kathy, how are you?
frazzled, but I'm here.
Thank you. Well, thanks for joining. So we're just gonna, we're in the agenda. Do you have the agenda, Kathy?
No, I don't, but that's okay.
Okay, we're moving through some committee updates. John Decker is going to take us through the Nottingham School Planning Committee next, and then we'll bring it to you to update us on the school. How's that sound?
Okay, sounds like a plan.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So tomorrow evening, around dinner time, should be the finalization meeting of the report that we're going to submit for a hearing. So we're looking to have a hearing on November 23rd. And I mean, this report is really about pulling the SAU services out of the SAU, not necessarily the preschool. So the preschool, at least for the following, so it would be the 22-23 budget season, which is what we'll be budgeting for. There's an agreement with Northwood to keep our preschool students there. I guess, and Kathy, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I understand there's a whole separate preschool committee someplace.
Yes, I'm on that committee, yes.
Okay.
Because if we bring the preschool back to us, we have to have a curriculum in place. And so that we have what needs to be offered to our students. And one of the things that makes it would be feasible if we had room in the school to bring the preschool back. So if we have the addition, there's a fourth classroom in the kindergarten wing that could be the preschool classroom. And that way, students that weren't children with specific needs, children on an IEP, those we could have regularly developing children from Nottingham come to the preschool for a small tuition, and then that would help also defray the cost of the preschool.
So with that being said, I also understand that any preschool addition stuff is disqualified from the state reimbursement.
That's
But I
correct.
don't know if that's true or not.
That
Okay.
is correct.
So if we put a preschool in that new space, then we have to pay the 100% of that piece.
It's a
Yes.
kindergarten.
Yes.
Right.
No,
Okay.
for the preschool,
So-
not for the kindergarten, just for that one room.
Right.
But if we don't have a space within the building that meets the requirements for a preschool classroom, that's one of our problems right now. We only have one of our 3 kindergarten classrooms that meets the state and federal requirements for a kindergarten classroom.
Well, I'm pretty certain the ones that we send them to now don't meet those standards either.
No, they don't. No, they don't. And therefore that's an added reason to get them back into our own building.
Right.
How do these
Okay.
kids get to Northwood?
They are driven to Northwood. They are on a bus. So
Wow.
we wouldn't incur that expense either.
So these are preschool kids that were busing up to Northwood.
I'm not sure we're actually busing any that are not special needs.
Yeah.
That's correct. The special needs students that go there are bused, and then, for instance, my son is driven.
And then, and Jim, I think because my son went there too, we pay for them to go. I don't think that the town doesn't pay for
No.
students.
No,
That's right. We pay. Yep.
I think it's awful that they're not in Nottingham in that school, personally. as a former teacher.
Yeah.
Well,
So-
yes,
Yeah,
exactly. We really, it's beneficial for the students, the families. It's beneficial to the whole community to have our kids back in our building if we had a space for them.
Right.
Just the idea
And
of
it's
just the idea of putting them on a bus is just beyond my comprehension. It really is.
Well, only the special needs kids might need to be bused, not the regular kids.
No,
I
no,
mean-
but that's even worse to me.
Well, it
they would
is,
be
but
bust anyway.
you know, but they'd have to be bused anyway.
I think your
Well-
point is that these are children that are not developing at the level that of other children, and yet they are the ones that are out there on a bus, which is not the most comforting way of traveling, and they could be here in their own community where they could be
Exactly.
transported by their parents.
That's my whole
Exactly.
point. That's my whole point.
I was getting that was your whole point, and that's, it's the children with a disability of any sort don't need to be on a bus.
And I think we owe it to them as a town to provide the services to those kids, if
Exactly.
possible.
Oh, we do.
I agree.
Well, we have a federal mandate to deliver services to those children after the age of 3. You know,
Yeah,
and that's why we have the child check, that when a child reaches the age of 3, they can be assessed. And if they have speech or language, OT issues, and they're severe enough to impede their learning, then they can be in our preschool program at no cost to them.
now how many kids are we sending up there? They have
I'm not
special-
sure I have the number at this moment, but it's not a lot. I think it's like 11.
And how many?
Yeah,
how many
13 comes to my mind.
how
Beg
many
your
are-
pardon?
One student rides the bus to school there currently. I'm not sure where they're from. There's one student that's bused to preschool currently.
How big's the class? Do you know?
My son,
I'm not really sure how large the class is. I know that there are 2 classrooms there, but they are very, very small.
Yeah, well, they need to be to help these kids. You know.
Well, they need to be a larger classroom space. I mean, the state guidelines for how many square feet each child needs
Right.
is larger than what,
I think there's only about 8 kids in there. And, I'll just say, my son is not on a IEP or anything, but, they do a great job there. And, I just want to get that feedback out there that, while it might not be an ideal situation, but I think they're certainly providing a high level of care to the students there.
they are. And we want to continue the high level of learning for those students, but it would be so much more beneficial to have them in our town for them and their families, but also financially, it would be a benefit to us.
Kathy, are there any private preschools that specialize in special needs kids that we could pay to send everybody to?
There are some around, but most of them don't take tuitioned in students. Not for special needs.
By tuitioned in, you just mean that that anyone's paying for them to come in, or what?
Well, see, we have a federal mandate that we have to pay for them to come for them to be taught.
Yep.
Okay, so let's say they're going to school in a different town. I'm not sure, we have to pay for it, but I'm not sure if there are any schools in the area that meet the needs and the guidelines. I don't know of any, but I could research that for you if you'd like me to.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be good to know what options are out there. If there's some place that specializes in this and could do a bulk contract to take everybody.
So just to throw this out there, my wife's the special education director for the Exeter High School.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, this is what we're basically talking about, kids with special needs. This is what
Yes.
she's running the whole program for the whole high school. Outsourcing kids is expensive.
Oh, it sure is.
Very, and then who end up paying for it is all the town residents because you're supporting the town. So I understand where you're going, Tom. Absolutely. I'm not trying to say that, but any way we can keep them in would be a benefit, I think, in financially than to send them out for the needs. But again, that's my opinion, and we'll get that clarified more by the school board, I'm sure.
But the busing alone could kill us.
Absolutely. And my
You know.
wife mentioned that the other day too, the busing that you have to pay for because you have to bring them in, out. Everybody has to have their own special. It's just,
So, but I'm sure that the SAU special ed coordinator could give us some input on that, and I will get that for our next meeting.
Okay, great. Thank you.
All right. Well, I'd like to reel it back into the SAU discussion instead of preschool, because the preschool is obviously a separate committee, although right now the preschool exists at the SAU, and there's an agreement with Northwood to keep our students at that preschool for the next year.
Yes.
So, as far as the SAU withdrawal, we're finalizing the report tomorrow, God willing. Hope it's not a late night. And then it gets distributed to the other school districts. That would be Northwood and Stratford both, because Stratford is still in. So they would get a copy of our plan. We would have a hearing on proposed date of November 23rd. And then if we have to make any tweaks to it or whatever, we have to send it up to the state by November 30th so that we can meet with the State Board of Education on December 10th. So then, assuming all goes well, it would be placed on the ballot for March. So basically, to summarize, the proposal that we've put together for an SAU plan includes utilizing a little space at the current town office, as well as, a couple people in the school. We're looking at a budget that is very slightly higher than the current budget that the current SAU budget is using this year. So, which would be a huge savings for next year's. Next year we're going to, against the next year budget, because next year the SAU will just be Northwood and Nottingham. So we would still be obligated to that for next year's budget. But as the year after that, it would go back down to approximately what it is this year. So that would be a huge savings. I think that pretty much covers it.
So John, so if we withdraw from the SAU as a town, who performs the functions of the SAU as they currently are now?
So the school board would become responsible for that. But we would have to have we're proposing a part-time superintendent to oversee that whole thing. So basically all that control comes back to the town and into the school budget.
So, money wise, what's the differential between the current and what it looks like down, 2 years from now? How much are we saving as a town?
So, hang on a
Roughly,
second.
you don't have to give me an exact number. I mean, I'm just curious.
I can actually give you a pretty good estimate if I pull up a spreadsheet here.
So I sense your committee is recommending that we withdraw.
The committee has loosely decided that, yes, we recommend the withdrawal.
Okay.
So we, gosh. Trying to make sure I got the right numbers here.
Does that change the, how upper class students are, handled now for high school?
No,
No, it wouldn't change high school at all. I don't any numbers at this point because I'm not exactly sure what they are, but it's basically right now we're responsible for like 36% maybe of the SAU budget. And next year we would be responsible for like 56% or
yeah, I
something
think
like
it's
that, with it
56.
just-
Yeah,
with it just being 2 towns. So, I mean, that's a huge increase there. And basically we would bring it back down to what's approximately this year's, a little bit more. So, sorry, there was another piece of that question is, Tom.
Now, if this all happens, does that reduce the SAU staff numbers and so on and so forth?
yes.
Yes. Oh, yeah. We wouldn't bring, that would be ridiculous. We definitely wouldn't bring all that staff over. That, like I said, we would have a part-time superintendent, some kind of business person, like a bookkeeper. Right now the SAU currently has like 3 bookkeepers, and then we also have in town somebody doing some accounting work. So, there's just so much savings by bringing it back to the town.
Makes sense.
Yep.
Well, thank you for all the work you've done on that committee. So,
I sat in on the
Um,
meeting the other day, and boy, they are really working very carefully and being very careful in how they're wording it and how they're presenting it, to making
Yeah,
sure
I-
that you get the basic idea of what they're trying to say.
Yep. Thank you, Kathy. I think we've definitely done our due diligence.
Yes, I would say so.
Michael, you're muted.
Okay, is that better? I'll do this 3 or 4 more times before we're done. John, you mentioned that the report will be in the process of getting finalized tomorrow evening, and then distributed out to the other schools in the SAU, et cetera, and to the state. Where might budget committee members and or public have access to that report before the public hearing?
I'm not exactly sure how it will get distributed, but I can email the budget committee with that stuff. But yeah, it definitely gets put out publicly somewhere. So
I think it will be public after the next school board meeting when you present it to the school board. Is that correct, John?
honestly, I don't know. I know that they send it to on Monday, it needs to go to the other districts. That's all I know. I'm not sure when it actually goes to the school board.
Do you anticipate any revisions between your final and public hearing?
No.
Okay.
I don't anticipate any. I mean, when we have the hearing, maybe, but I still doubt we will. I still don't anticipate revisions after the hearing.
No, before the hearing.
Right.
Between
So
tomorrow night when you finalize it and the public hearing, are there likely to be adjustments to it based on feedback from other players or?
there would be no adjustments until actually we had the hearing.
Okay,
You know, they can hold their suggestions until the hearing.
sure. I'd be interested in getting a copy as soon as it's available. Thank you.
Yep. I can make sure I email the whole committee with wherever it is it gets put.
Any other questions for John? Well, John, thanks very much. Thanks for putting the time into this project. So Kathy, we'll move on to the school board update. Before we get there, we had covered, and it sounds like you might not have the calendar I'd sent out to you either. I don't know if you had an opportunity to review that. I sent it to you and the superintendent.
Yes, I did have a chance to look over it.
Okay, so we did vote to approve that calendar with the caveat, you know, will the school have the opportunity to present us with a default budget on Tuesday, December 1st?
I think we will be, because when I look at our schedule, you know, the department heads have already spoken to the principal about what their pleasure is or what their needs are for the next year, and then they'll be presenting this. The principal will look over it, and he will be presenting their needs, wishes, wants, whatever, and then after that, we'll look at the percentage and we'll look at what we can cut and what we shouldn't cut and what our assessment is. And
But-
so then,
Kathy, just to be clear, I was asking about the default budget, not the 2021-22 proposed.
oh,
budget.
okay. I'm not sure.
So that's what we voted on the calendar. So if you could confirm with the school board and Monica, that would be fantastic.
Yes.
So that's December 1st, and that's in,
Okay,
that's
I'll
in
talk to
the
Glenn.
calendar I sent to you.
Yeah. Okay. I'll talk to Glenn about that.
Okay, thank you. So yeah, we're ready for you to present.
Okay. You had a couple of questions. And Kelly has been, I guess, up against it because I haven't heard anything from Kelly except that she has resigned. So I don't have any of her paperwork, but I do have the answers to the questions that you sent Monica and I.
Okay.
Okay. And I guess the one that probably brings people close to heart failure was the one where you saw that as of December of this year, we would be in the hole money wise, actual cash wise, to the sum of $60 some odd thousand. And so I spoke to Glenn Waring, who is our business person right now, and Monica. And what it is it's a 3-year average. So whatever he's putting in here is a 3-year average of the estimated. Okay. And I know it says actual, but it's projected cash outflow. And then the cash position is the actual money that's in the bank. And then the bank state balance, you know, comes every month. But in reality, it is just a projection, a guesstimate. And it went down to like being 60 some odd $1,000 in the hole. And then the next month, it went right back up again. And so the new cash flow report, I think maybe Monica or Mary sent that to you.
Yeah, I have it. I have it up in front of the budget committee now.
Yep. And that shows a different picture, a very different picture than the one from last month.
Okay, yeah, so I think that was the question we had because I think the one that Kelly had shared with us, it looked like as of January, there was going to be a deficit.
Yes,
Okay,
yes. So, and also our business, we do not have an actual business manager at the present time. So I'm not sure Glenn has always got the most up-to-date numbers. I suppose I'm speaking out of school, but that's the way it is.
you're on a recorded line, Kathy.
I know, I can see it, but that's,
That's
You're
okay.
not in school though.
I've reached the point in my life where I say what I feel. I'm sorry. You'll have to take this little old lady with a grain of salt, I guess. Also, you were asking about the enrollment figures,
Correct.
okay, from last year to this year. And I think you have those to put up too.
Yes, I'm putting them up right now.
And last year, the September 1st total enrollment in the elementary school was 540, and that's counting in-district and homeschoolers.
Okay,
And then it also has the grade 9 to 12 in there as well. And you can see some of them are homeschooled, some Dover, Co-Brown, Cata, Pinkerton, Portsmouth, and some alt ed.
Why would somebody go to Portsmouth?
Some of the kids go, I think because of what is offered at Portsmouth is something they'd like. And sometimes it's for like the alt ed kids or kids that would be ones that I believe would be dropping out of school, and alt ed keeps them in school until they get their diploma.
Can
And
I-
I know my granddaughter moved in with me, and she was going to be a senior at Pinkerton. She moved from Derry, and you allowed me to send her to Pinkerton, and I thanked Scott Rooning for making that allowance, and he said, "Hey, Kathy, that saves us about $2,300 a year, so it's okay." So it's everybody is charged a different amount, and right now the children at Co-Brown are paying a higher tuition than they are at Dover. And some of our students have now moved to Co-Brown from Dover because they want to be in school, as have a couple of high school students from Co-Brown have gone to Dover because they do not want to be in school face to face. And so that has changed some of our budget numbers for this year's school.
So
'Cause
yeah,
it-
I'm showing that slide right now, Kathy, is that it looks like we have 507 total elementary school students enrolled,
Yes,
including homeschool.
yes,
And then, yeah, you can see that shift of 161 at Co-Brown and 108 at Dover.
yes.
Okay. So I guess the enrollments aren't too far off from where they were in
No.
2019.
No, just a few. And some of those are probably just the normal ebb and flow of people moving in and out of town. And some of it, I'm sure, is COVID related. But the number of students haven't actually disappeared. They're still here. They're just perhaps being educated in a different spot.
Well, it looks like some of them have moved on to high school and are costing us more money.
Yes, yes. Well, and some of them that moved from Dover to be fully in school at Co-Brown, I think there are 11 of those, and that's a cost for each one of those students. And I don't think we've lost 11 from Co-Brown that went back to Dover. So it hasn't evened out.
For the committee, I'll email these slides out to everybody. So if you want to take a look in more detail, you can do that. I just got them.
I think you got those yesterday, right?
Well,
And if you look,
no, I had to get updated ones. There's some math that was not quite correct, but any questions for Kathy on enrollment?
there also a note at the bottom of the September 1st, 2020 that says 12 students moved to other districts. And 3 kindergartner students withdrew, 12 students moved to homeschool, and 4 Dover students transferred to Co-Brown. Now it's up to 11, I believe. And 1 Co-Brown student transferred to Dover.
So Kathy, for the homeschool, is that children that are homeschooled but through Nottingham Elementary, or children that are actually truly homeschooled?
The ones that say home educated are the ones that are actually homeschooled. We are counting the children that we are servicing through distance learning as Nottingham students.
Okay. Thank you,
And
Kathy.
that's all I have for you.
Right.
Anybody have any
I have-
questions?
I do. I have a question.
Okay,
I don't expect an answer just because it was something that Kelly was investigating. The Dover school bus overspend issue. She was
Yes.
going to try and go over that with the school board to find out any additional details to bring back to us.
well, right now, we have 2 Dover High School buses. Okay, right now, we are not using one of the Dover High School buses. So but we're using the other Dover High School bus. And I'm not sure how the money is working out. Because we have a contract with the bus company, with Dale Transportation. And so I think when you have a contract, it's not Dover's fault or our fault that we're not using that bus to send students to Dover, because Dover's not in school right now. So you know what I mean? I'm not sure how
Right.
that works out, but I can check with Kelly and see if she got in touch with Dale, or I can get in touch with Dale myself.
So
And I can have
this
that
was from
for you.
this was from last year. At the end of the school year when they canceled school or whatever, and
Yep,
obviously there was the there was a contract, but it looks like that line still was overspent over the amount of the contract. So that was really what the question was, is how did we overspend on a contract when we weren't even getting the services from the bus and as it was?
Okay. I will research that for you.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Kathy?
We're gonna see like through email, get those budget projections that were on the screen before the student enrollments.
Yeah,
Okay, thank you.
yeah, I'll put those in the email as well as those 3 slides.
It did look like at the end of the year, they were total overspent. So I'm curious to see exactly what it is we're looking at on those slides.
All right, well, thank you, Kathy. Sorry for the confusion, but I'm glad you were able to get on.
Well, thank you. I think Christine called Susan, who then called me.
I'm glad we got in touch with you, and welcome to the Budget Committee.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome. All right, next on the agenda is the meeting minutes from October 1st. I'm assuming since we all had the opportunity over the past month to review those meetings, does anybody have any, or those minutes rather, does anybody have any questions or anything to add, remove, delete, edit to those minutes? All right, could I get a motion to accept the minutes from October 1st?
All right, I'll make a motion to accept the Budget Committee minutes of December 1st. Sorry, 1st.
I'll second. I second it.
Any discussion? All right, all in favor? I'm going to go down the list. Kathy, I'm going to assume that.
Abstain.
Yeah, exactly. Tom Bukovitz,
Aye.
John Decker,
Aye.
I will say yes. Sean Green,
Sorry, technical difficulties. Yes.
Sandra Jones,
Yes.
Michael Keister,
Yes.
Tom Lavelle,
Yes.
John Moore,
Yes.
and Jim Stevens.
Yes.
Thank you very much. And look at that, we've got us 15 minutes ahead of schedule. So we've got our next meeting on the calendar at this point for December 1st. At that meeting, we'll be reviewing the default budget for the town and the default budget for the school. I will anticipate that meeting being much longer than this meeting today. Just to let you all know, to give you a fair warning, we're getting you out early today, but it's probably going to be longer next month. And I think that will be helpful, especially for those of you that are new to this process when we go through the default budgets in greater detail, so you kind of understand the start of this process.
What's the start time for that meeting?
It'll be 6:30.
Okay.
Is there a chance we can get documents for those default budgets ahead of the meeting?
That would be the goal.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, I would prefer to get things to everybody at least a week in advance, especially for that meeting, and then for the budget. And then I know those of you that have been on this committee before understand that a lot of the numbers change sometimes the day of our meetings. So I think going forward from there, it won't be as far in advance. But I think for the default budget and for the first proposed budgets, I'm hoping to get that stuff to everybody so you have a good opportunity to review it before our meeting. But I'm not creating them, so that's easy for me to say.
Yeah.
Anything else anybody would like to add?
It would be nice to get them electronically as well, but I'm not going to hold my breath.
Do you mean the Excel
Sorry.
version?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
dreamer.
Okay. Does anybody have anything else to add? All right. Well, hopefully by the time we have our next meeting, we'll know who our next president is. If not, I'm not sure who will be at that time. But if I could get a motion to close our meeting.
We need to know by Jan. So moved.
Who made the motion? I make a motion to adjourn.
Thank you, John.
Is there a second?
Seconded.
Hey,
All right.
Tom seconded.
Tom and Tom.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Hi.
Aye.
Aye.
Bye.
Aye.
Oh, you have to go down your list.
Yeah, I do have to go on the list. Kathy,
Yes.
Tom Bukovitz,
Aye.
John Decker,
Aye.
Sean Green,
Yes.
Sandra Jones,
Yes.
Michael Keister,
Yes.
Tom Lavelle,
Yes.
John Moran,
Yes.
and Jim Stevens.
Yes.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Thanks,
Have
guys.
yourselves a wonderful evening and have a great weekend. Enjoy this warm weather. And
Yes.
Absolutely. You guys all too.
Take care.
thanks.
Good night.
night.
Thanks,
Take
Jim.
care, everybody. Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.